Welcome to the DeFi Standard, and this is Mickey B. Fresh. Today we got a special episode, one of the most coveted topics in all of the community, Polysign. And we're going to do a deep dive into what we know about Polysign, and we will speculate on what we think Polysign might be. And it's not what many think. So just to recap, if anyone who isn't familiar with Polysign, is a stealth company built by Arthur Britto and David Schwartz for institutional grade custody. Now we're going to go over to the old website here from 2017 and 2018. So let's start at the very beginning here. Polysign was formed in around 2017, but its original name was Interledger FX, and Arthur Britto left Ripple to create Polysign. Now, David Schwartz is on the board of Polysign. So Polysign's custody solution supports the full spectrum of digital assets and is designed to scale to trillions under management. Now, they say institutional grade here. And you could look at this little diagram playing. They don't really give that many hints about it. But one thing that I do want to make clear before we really dive into the more speculative aspects is that Polysign is not like your BitGo or your Kingdom Trust or your Copper. They're building the infrastructure to allow digital assets and crypto assets to be used by traditional banks, fintechs, and capital markets especially. So let's go down here. And they discuss one of the biggest problems facing digital assets today. And when they say custody, it doesn't just mean they're going to cold storage this thing in a cave secured by physical people. Now, cold storage is a factor here, but it's not the ultimate way to custody crypto assets because you can't utilize them when they're in cold storage. Now, securing the cryptographic keys unlocks access to all the funds. Once the secret is stolen or lost, funds can never be recovered. Money could be gone within seconds with no recourse. And recently, Stephen Thomas, who was the former CTO of Ripple, did an interview with the New York Times saying how he's locked out of his Bitcoin wallet, which had hundreds of millions of dollars worth of Bitcoin in it. And I don't think it's any coincidence that he just decided to sit down with the New York Times and do an interview about how he can't get his private keys back to be able to unlock those hundreds of millions of dollars in Bitcoin that he has. In my opinion, that's no coincidence, and it's leading up to a narrative that's going to be play out soon. Now, Polysign's been in stealth for roughly 3 years. They've had multiple rounds of funding, so I believe they raised between 15 million to 20 million now. So they're a well-funded company. They have some really high-end traditional financial market people on their board and working for them. So let's go down that list here and see. So we have Jack McDonald, who is the former CEO of Conifer Financial Services, and he was inducted into the Global Custodians Legends of the industry. David Schwartz is a board member, and the founder and the creator is Arthur Britto. And this is the mystery man. Nobody knows who he is. Nobody's ever seen his face. He's one of the 3 founders of Ripple, along with Chris Larson and Jed McCaleb. Now, also part of the Polysign team is Tim Keeney. Now, he's the retired vice chairman of BNY Mellon, and he led an organization of 25,000 and was responsible for custodying 25% of all global institutional assets. So there's some heavy hitters here. And then we got Antoinette O'Gorman, who did a presentation at the IMF a couple years back and speaking about, what do you know, crypto custody. And that's when she was at Ripple when Polysign was just getting introduced. So now it's important to know that something in stealth does not mean it hasn't launched. It just means it's in stealth from the public. So Polysign has been live for years. It's not that they're late to the party. It's not that they're waiting for something. They're live. They've been live. They're just under massive amounts of NDAs. And what they're building is an end-to-end infrastructure for digital assets to be used. And there's a difference between custodying something just in cold storage and providing actual custody for wallets to be able to utilize those digital assets in the real world and in everyday crypto. It's not just store this thing away in a cold storage. It's more than that now. And what Polysign is building is basically the infrastructure for wallets. And what do you need for the high-end wallets to have every functionality? You need identity. You need authentication, authorization, attestation. And with that comes your biometrics and being able to secure those keys. How exactly they're creating Polysign's blockchain, which we're going to go over to now and look at, because Polysign is more than just an institutional custody. They keep using the term institutional grade. Doesn't mean it's only for institutions. It's going to be the infrastructure that allows those institutions then to offer those type of services to retail, commercial, and other enterprises and fintechs. So let's go through here. They are building a third-generation proprietary private blockchain that is foundational to the development of digital asset infrastructure. Now, that doesn't sound like a BitGo or a Copper or a Kingdom Trust to me. That sounds like we're building a private authentication network for custodians. And we don't know anything about that. It's patent pending, it says here, but there's very few details. But we do know that we have the XRP ledger, which is a DLT network. We're going to have FLR, which is another DLT network. Those are both public. And now we're going to have a private network. Now, it is important to know with Polysign's blockchain that it's most likely to connect to multiple other blockchains. And that keeps hinting at wallet. That's what I keep seeing here. I mean, they don't say it on the website, but that's what it a lot looks like. And now let's go through to the bottom here. And it says, raising the standard in regulation and compliance. We aim to integrate with existing financial organizations and global markets. So they're looking to bridge the crypto markets and digital assets and these public blockchains with the capital markets and traditional markets. And they want to rigorously embrace the highest standard for regulation. So they want to be able to allow everyone to use crypto assets and digital assets and these public blockchains, say it be DeFi, say it be securitized assets. They want to allow that to be used in everyday world. So this isn't just for institutions to use. It's the infrastructure to allow the institutions to offer services to retail and other financial enterprises. And I think it's really important to understand what they're building is the infrastructure layer. So basically the infrastructure layer for all wallets that are out there. And to do that, you need to connect to those actual public blockchains. And here we go. We purpose-built to support them and dedicated to acting with integrity and trust throughout our entire relationship. So one side of Polysign here is connecting with these financial institutions and licensing their software to them. But then there's another side that's this private blockchain. And then there's actually a third component, which is standard custody and trust, which is a digital bank. And they're applied for a trust charter in the state of New York in September of 2019. So it's been almost a year and a half since they applied for this trust charter. Now, a lot of people have said, oh, Ripple might become a bank. Why wouldn't Ripple become a bank? Well, we have to keep in mind that standard custody is applying to become a bank. So that would be a state trust charter. That would be the first step for standard custody, which is a division of Polysign, to become a state trust charter. Then the next step would be to apply for the new OCC's fintech bank charters. So then it could become a full-blown digital bank, fully regulated. But that is separate from the Polysign blockchain. And we don't know exactly how those two things work, but we know they're separate entities underneath the Polysign umbrella. And it's possible the blockchain could be called something else, not Polysign. And if you take the word poly and sign, it sounds like multi-sig. But now David Schwartz has talked about zero-knowledge proofs, and there's been a lot of talk of identity. And for crypto and these digital wallets and DeFi to really go into the mainstream, we need to attach digital identity to the wallets that everyone is using. And now that's not too, there still could be privacy with digital identity. You could still have a more secure wallet with your own biometrics face, your voice, your thumbprint. Now, it's not that the government's going to get your biometrics or anything like that. Like the whole chip thing, we need to, when we hear biometrics, you got to know it's just like you use your phone every day. You open your phone, takes a picture of your face or your thumb, and you open it. That's your authorization. Only you have those biometrics. And now that's one thing that it says in a lot of the Polysign job descriptions is biometrics authorization. And I think that's really important because we have our voice is unique to us. Our thumbprint is unique to us. Our face is unique to us. So if you could add multi-layer security on the authorization, it would allow you to then have more secure than even cold storage. And now if you think of the other products that Ripple is building, like PayID, which is now PayString, which is going to now allow you to have a email-like address that could link to your wallet. So now we'll have digital identity attached to our wallets. We'll have PayString attached to that wallet too. So if, say, you wanted to just send a peer-to-peer payment, you could just use your PayString. But if you wanted to, say, send a crypto assets from your non-custodial wallet to Coinbase, they could verify your PayString address to your identity because it's attached to that. Now, you wouldn't have to give that identity if you were just doing the P2P payment, but to Coinbase, they could then verify it with only seeing the details that they need to see. And I think this is a way we could bring privacy back to the users. Unlike how it is right now, where Facebook takes all your data, Google takes all your data here. And by having control of your identity and the information that you share is going to add to that freedom. And it's going to push back against that Orwellian approach of control, control, control. All the W3 standards that are coming out right now that are credential identifications are decentralized credential identifiers, decentralized verification, decentralized digital identity. And that's where Global ID, which Greg Kidd is the CEO of, plays a big role in this with Polysign. And so does PayString. They're all intertwined here. So we have to look at Polysign as something more than just cold storage custody. That's not what it is. It goes beyond that. It's the infrastructure and the authentication. So it also could go further here now, and we're going to do a little speculating, because that's the fun part always, because they haven't given us much information. So let's go over here to a couple comments that we got from Bob Way when he popped up in the community about a year or so ago. And now Bob Way is one of the founders. He wasn't a founder, but he was one of the first 5 or 6 employees at Ripple. And he was instrumental in the design of the XRP ledger and of what became RippleNet. Okay. Now, this is Bob Way's comments from XRP chat about a year and a half ago. Now, what he says here is very interesting, and he throws in keywords as it loads. You will see that he talks specifically about the XRP ledger and how to utilize the gateways and how important it is to store your keys and cryptographic signatures. Here we go. So this is Bob Way's words. I quote, "I think Polysign is really big for the XRP ledger and ILP RippleNet components as well. He says he's not sure what features they've implemented or with other coins or contract code." So right there, we already know Polysign is more than the XRP ledger, but it's going to focus on the XRP ledger specifically, and we'll show that in a few slides from here. Now he says, "It is important to understand that banks, exchanges, and gateways are all trusted with other people's money." Now, just to refresh, what are gateways? I know Ripple doesn't talk about that as much anymore, but gateways are very important. Those are the on and off ramps to the XRP ledger that allow banks to plug in. So the XRP ledger was designed with what Brian Brooks said, banks plugging in to blockchain networks. That's exactly what the XRP ledger was designed to do. And these are the gateways. Keeping that money safe requires scrupulous security practices related to XRP ledger secrets and ILP transaction signing keys. Institutions like these need to protect those keys and secrets from both outside attackers and insider threats as well. They also need to provide for system continuity if one of the key human operators dies or becomes malicious. All right, let's go over what else he said. It's very interesting that Bob Way gave us these details. So he says Polysign is an institutional solution for managing multi-sign keys. So we have to think, after looking at that diagram earlier in the video, that these keys could be split up. And then one piece could be held by the vault or by the institution, one piece held by the user. And now nothing can be done without that user. So it can't be censored or anything like that. It allows the freedom for the user to still have control, but still have the ability to recover those keys if something happens. And that would give you the benefits that are not available right now in the market. All right. And likely for authorizing and signing a high volume of XRP ledger and ILP-based transactions. Once you've convinced banks and other institutions that using the XRP ledger is a good idea, then eventually the technical people from those firms start to ask how and for best practices. It seems to me, and this is Bob Way's words, Polysign has created a system that implements those best practices. So what we could take away from this is those gateways that were mentioned earlier, Ripple had to pull back on those after the FinCEN settlement. But we could think of those gateways moving up into the Polysign blockchain. Now you could authenticate the fiat that's in those gateways, which are banks and other financial regulated entities that can then issue, say, CBDCs onto the XRP ledger. Instead of just being the old gateway D-way, this, by putting it on a custodian network, it will have its own custom integration and Polysign infrastructure. As CBDCs are still going to need the authorization, the authentication, the attestation, and all the identity of those users and those accounts that have accounts with that bank and are using them. And that's very important. No other blockchain is that, Ethereum and other smart contracts do not have systems where they allow financial institutions just to plug in. And that's something special about the XRP ledger. Now, moving on. So it's been about 3 years since Polysign has been in stealth. So they said they were going to go live in 2020. We still haven't heard anything yet. Now we got the SEC case. This is something I just wanted to throw in there, is that the XRP ledger has a decentralized exchange, and it allows for liquidity aggregation. And now Nick Bogalis here is one of the head developers who works on the XRP ledger. And he says The XRP Ledger's DEX would be an awesome tool for exchange-to-exchange transfers in real time. So they're building this distributed exchange around the XRP Ledger. Now, if you're going to do that, you need the banks involved too. That's where Polysign comes in. All right, moving on. Now, this probably gives us the best details of actually what Polysign is. So I dug this up. This is the new version of a resume of an employee at Polysign right now. So everything that I've been saying here is built with FIDO2 web authentication with the YubiKey emulator, utilizing AWS Lambda. So this is for signing data with those YubiKeys. And it's designed to integrate with Okta into the backend of the primary authentication service to replace an unsecure, internally managed authentication service. So they're replacing the authentication of, say, a bank who had hundreds or thousands of clients who would want crypto wallets or an exchange. Now they're adding new authentication services to it that replace the outdated ones. And YubiKeys DAI talks about, and I think it's something that is going to play a vital role if Polysign's talking about it here. Now, migrated into the entire Polysign system to enforce and check cryptographically signed JWTs, which are the tokens, on every HTTP endpoint. And it utilizes gRPC interceptors. And now gRPC was just integrated into the XRP Ledger in the last 6 to 12 months to ensure that internal JWT for authenticating users has a cryptographically valid signature and wraps a valid Okta JWT for authenticating users across gRPC microservices. I know this is very technical. I don't understand it all either, but it's giving us an idea of what is going on. And microservices on the next generation of cloud services and allows applications to spin up really fast. All right, now to the juicy part. Now, this is what that employee did while working at Polysign. So they implemented the transaction API in the crypto service, which interfaces with the Rippled ledger to make deposits and withdrawals to and from Polysign accounts. That says it right there. You're going to have a crypto service that's Polysign's platform is going to be able to interface with the Ripple ledger, which is the Ripple nodes, which is the XRP ledger, and is going to be able to make deposits and withdrawals to and from the Polysign accounts. So that's going to be your custody platform that interacts with the XRP ledger. And that will allow RippleNet members then to be able to utilize the XRP ledger without having to deal with the privacy issues and security. It'll all be done at the Polysign authentication and security layer. Now it says created Celery task to fetch new transactions and update balances from the Ripple's ledger on a beat schedule.